send congratulations to Deputy Kelly and wish him well in his new role, and send good wishes to Deputy MacDonald. On behalf of the Social Democrats, we want to extend our deepest sympathies to the families of all of those people who sadly were lost to this deadly pandemic. I also want to again pay tribute to our public health officials and to all of those people working at the front line in the health service, in supporting the health service in their important work, in the retail sector, in the delivery sector, and all of those other key people who provide such important services to us at this very difficult time. The public health officials have provided very good and sound advice to the government, and which the government has followed. And at the level of the opposition, we have, I think, across the board, been happy to support the government in following that advice. It has proven to be very good advice, as I say. However, I think we are moving to a point where we need to involve other people in some of the advice and decision-making in relation to those areas that go beyond the strict public health issues. And I'll talk about those in a moment. But I also want to just take a moment to talk about what is happening in our nursing homes. I hope that in the next session the Minister for Health will respond with the facts in relation to the questions we've down. But it has to be a matter of serious concern when one of our leading consultants, Jack Lambert, refers to what is going on in nursing homes as a national catastrophe. And he did that at lunchtime today. There is no doubt we are exposing a lot of very vulnerable citizens to a response that isn't adequate at the moment, and that must be addressed as a matter of urgency. When we look at the figures that we hear every evening, I think there is no doubt that, those headline figures are slightly encouraging. They're beginning to steady a little bit, and we draw comfort from that. But, there is no doubt that as the curve is somewhat flattened, it does raise other questions about the strategy that is being pursued and the strategy in respect of test and trace, because there is no doubt that that strategy is not operating satisfactorily. And the reason for that is there is a logjam caused at the level of the labs because of the shortage of the reagent that is required. And everything that is based on that strategy, in terms of all of the new test centres, 50 test centres, all of the staff that have been mobilised, that is not being used at the moment because of the fact that there is this logjam caused in the labs. And that's why I'm saying that there is a need for an intervention. And I believe that intervention should take place at the highest political level in terms of engaging with the pharma industry and, addressing the fact that this reagent is a proprietary material. And the fact that that is owned by particular, commercial interests is shocking in my view, and is a disgrace when the world is trying to respond to a deadly pandemic. And there needs to be intervention. We have a lot of pharma companies in this country, and there needs to be a serious, high-level intervention with those companies to establish how it is that we can secure adequate volumes of that reagent. And more importantly, if we can secure access to the actual chemical formula for that reagent, because we know that there are many labs in this country that could produce large quantities of that reagent if the formula was made available. And it is entirely unacceptable that commercial interests should be preventing that from happening. The second area where I believe there needs to be intervention is in terms of securing access to adequate PPE. And I have called already for a forum to be established on medical supplies. We have a lot of manufacturing capacity in this country. Nobody has yet explained to me why we cannot produce large quantities of PPE in this country, especially gowns, which are in such short supply at the moment. And we need to put that forum together to bring in all of those commercial interests. Look, the HSE are working might and main to secure it in different parts of the world, but we need to look seriously at what can be produced here and what can be done domestically. The third area that I want to raise Taoiseach, is the whole question of now, as we get to a point where the curve is starting to flatten. So what is the exit strategy going to be? We have to start thinking about that. And, you know, there are two approaches. There's containment or there's eradication. And we've seen where other island countries have had a lot of success if they take the eradication approach. We are an island too. Obviously, the situation in the north of Ireland complicates this thing enormously. But we need to be doing the cost-benefit analysis on considering, you know, restricting entry at our ports and airports. The question is, who is going to take those key decisions about when we might ease up on the restrictions and the basis on which we would do that? And how do you strike that balance between getting people back to work while keeping people safe? And they are questions that need to be addressed, but in a much wider forum than a public health forum. Clearly, they need to be, you know, informed very substantially by the public health experts. But we need other people involved in that as well. And that's why, Taoiseach, I think we have got to a point now where there is a need for a high-level task force to be established to consider all of those key issues that need to be taken into consideration in planning an exit strategy, to listen to the advice across a range of different disciplines. But, you know, it is now time to set up that, that high-level task force. I think it must be led by the Taoiseach. I think it must involve cross-party interests, but it must involve all of those other interests that can feed into this key decision that we have to take now in this country.
Thank you very much, Deputy.